The city's hum was just another sound lost in the noise of his mind. Cars rushed by, horns blared, and people moved with purpose he had long forgotten. Every day felt the same. Wake up, stare at the ceiling, drown in regret. Go to work, drown in routine, come home, drown in silence, sleep. Repeat. Somewhere along the way, life had lost its color. Once, he had been full of dreams, a family, a future, something to fight for. But life had a way of stripping things away, layer by layer, until all that remained was an empty shell, a man merely taking up space. He carried the weight of his past like a stone chained to his back. His mind was his prison, and the voice in his head was his jailer. This is your fault, you failed them. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, bad follows. Some days he believed it. No, most days. It was easier that way. Easier to isolate himself. Easier to go through the motions. Every time he tried to let someone in, it ended in pain. And wasn't pain better when you expected it? But lately, something in him had started to rebel. A quiet defiance, an ember buried beneath the ashes of his suffering. It whispered that maybe, just maybe, he could fight back. So he did. The first battle began before the sun even rose. He forced himself out of bed, out of the warmth of complacency, and onto the cold, unforgiving floor. Push-ups, sit-ups, squats. His body screamed in protest, muscles aching under years of neglect. But he fought through it, gasping, sweating, gritting his teeth against the burn. He started reading again, scripture, books on healing, anything to fight the war in his mind. He wrote, pouring poison from his soul onto the pages, each word stripping away the lies he had lived with for so long. And most importantly, he prayed. At first, the words felt foreign, like dust-covered relics from a life he barely remembered. Guilt sat heavy on his chest. He wondered if God even heard him anymore. But he did it anyway. He spoke through the doubt, through the fear, and little by little, something stirred inside him. Hope. One evening, he decided to walk through the forest on the edge of town. It was the one place that still felt sacred, untouched by the world's noise. The towering trees, the cool breeze, the distant sound of a river. It was peace. But tonight, something felt off. The air was thick, heavy. The wind whispered, carrying something more than just rustling leaves. He felt it in his bones, a presence lingering just beyond sight. Then came the laughter, low, mocking, inhuman. He froze. His skin prickled, his heart pounded. Slowly, his eyes drifted downward, toward his shadow. It was moving. Not with him, not like it should. It took a step forward. His breath caught. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but he was rooted in place. You want to pray? The voice was like oil, smooth and suffocating. You forget I've seen everything you've done. The words hit him like a blade to the gut. You're not a man, it whispered, slithering into his thoughts. You failed your marriage, your family. You're failing now. The wind howled. The trees trembled. His knees felt weak. A figure rose from the ground, blacker than the void, its shape shifting like liquid shadow. It had no face, but he could feel its eyes on him. His heart pounded against his ribs. Fear wrapped its fingers around his throat, and then he clenched his fists. He gritted his teeth. He fought back. I waited patiently for the Lord, he whispered. The words burned in his throat, but he forced them out. He turned to me and heard my cry. The shadow twitched. The trees groaned as the wind screamed in fury. You know you want to drink, the voice hissed. Go have one. A step forward. You've failed, just give up. Another step. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, he bellowed, his voice rising above the storm, out of the mud and mire. The wind roared, the figure twisted, convulsing. He set my foot on a rock. The ground trembled, the figure screeched. You don't know what's ahead, the voice shrieked. Turn back, it's safe there. Safe, no. Safe was drowning in his own misery, Safe was believing the lies, Safe was giving up. Not this time. With fire in his chest, he took another step. He put a new song in my mouth, he shouted, a hymn of praise to our God. The figure lunged. They crashed to the ground, rolling, fists flying. It wasn't just a fight, it was a war. Every punch carried every doubt, every fear, every regret he had ever known. "You're nothing," the voice howled. "Give up. End it." But he refused. They tumbled, they struggled, and then, suddenly, he was on his knees, gasping for breath. His body trembled, his vision swam. The shadow stood over him, unfazed. It crouched, head tilting. "You'll never be free," it whispered. "You need me." A breath, a beat. Then he stood. He stood. "The Lord is my shepherd," he declared. The shadow convulsed. The trees shuddered. The wind died. Light broke through the canopy, golden and warm, piercing the darkness. The laughter ceased. He opened his eyes. The shadow was gone. His body was whole, no bruises, no torn clothes. His hands were steady. The ground beneath his feet was firm. He scanned the forest. Silence. Stillness. The wind had stopped whispering. And then he looked up. A beam of sunlight filtered through the branches, touching his face like a hand of reassurance. His lips curled into something he hadn't felt in a long time. A smile. He had won. For the first time in years, he was free.
Thanks so much for watching. We absolutely love telling stories, and we hope you truly enjoyed this one. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, leave us a comment, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an adventure. We've got plenty more stories coming your way. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.